back, and wow, that was something. How about that? The curtain went up to start the movie, and the curtain came down, and boy, did it come down. Death by curtain. I don't think we've seen that before. Very, very good. Did you see it was written at the front? It said safety curtain. I can think of at least one thing wrong with the title of that, but we haven't seen that before. Boy, this film had very unenthusiastic reviews at the time, and was not well received by audiences, and that was mostly because of that false flashback that we saw at the beginning. You might be thinking to yourself, what? You know, the scene where Jonathan is telling Jane Wyman in the car about how Marlene Dietrich showed up at his apartment, there was blood all over her dress, that she killed her husband and all that sort of thing, and we find out later that that was a lie. Well, we're used to that. I mean, it's 2011, even in the 90s and the 80s, we're used to that. We've seen the movie The Usual Suspects. If you've seen that one, the whole film is told in flashback, and it turns out to be a lie. I can think of an episode of Magnum P.I. where there's something goes wrong, and Magnum, Rick, and TC all tell their version of the same events, and we see it all reenacted, and we know somebody's not telling the truth. And a great example is a Japanese film, also from 1950, called Rashomon, where we're seeing a crime being told by different people, and we see the scenes, and it's all different. Let me tell you, in 1950, that was a no-no. That was a big no-no. A flashback was what happened. The camera knows everything, and if you saw it in the movie, it happened. And the reason is a lot of movies were told in flashback. Think of all those great film noir movies you've seen, where the guy's talking about, I should have known better. That dame crossed my mind, was the worst thing that ever happened to me. And then the whole movie is him telling the story of what happened. Citizen Kane. I mean, the whole thing. Double Indemnity, great example of exactly that, with Fred McMurray telling the whole story in flashback. Citizen Kane, the whole thing is people telling it, and you knew for all movies on eternity what you were seeing in the film actually happened. And audiences, when they saw it, they put two and two together, they thought, well, that's dumb. I mean, they made a mistake. Marlene Dietrich said she did it. That can't be right. And it was such a mess with audience and critics that Hitchcock, had to say something, and what he said was that, I did a bunch of rewriting halfway through and forgot what was already done and didn't realize till it was too late. And I'm thinking, yeah, right. I mean, you don't make changes halfway through ever, and how could you not know that? I think it was just something that he sort of had to say to deal with all the condemnation and criticism he was getting for this, especially since his failed experiment, Rope, even though we think that's great, and definitely the failure of Under Capricorn, he was in no position to say, well, I did this and did that. And what's interesting about that is that even years later, he never really said, oh yeah, I totally meant to do that. I was way ahead of my time. You remember Rashomon, 1950, Akira Kurosawa did this great movie. No, he called it one of his two great mistakes. The first one being in Sabotage, where Stevie's with that package and it blows up, and he said he never should have killed Stevie. And the second one being this one, that he never should have had that false flashback. And I think what he kind of meant by that is that he realizes now that audiences simply were not ready for that, and he was right. This was not successful. We just don't notice it because we're used to being lied to, and we know the camera isn't always telling the truth and that sort of thing. So there you go. Not a success. Again, that's no good. But boy, we just love that movie. It's hilarious. Great cameo. The cameo, if you didn't see it somehow, you can rewind your DVD or your whatever. It's at 39 minutes and 54 seconds. You had to have seen it. I love it. Lots of humor in this movie. Lots of great scenes. We just loved the scene where Jane Wyman and Ordinary Smith are in the back of the cab, and they forget what they're talking about. And the music in the background, they're falling in love. That's fantastic. We love Marlene Dietrich in every scene she was in. She stole every scene with that great lighting and the great camera angle. Just a beautiful woman. You can see why Hitchcock allowed her to direct herself. Thank you very much. Apparently it was Marlene Dietrich playing Marlene Dietrich. But the best of all was Alistair Sim, the father. Why, when we meet him and he's like, I've been known for smuggling. You're not a smuggler. Yes, I am. Everything he said was just fantastic. Brilliant lines delivered brilliantly. Hilarious, good stuff. You know, Richard Todd turning out to be, what a twist on the wrong man theme. I mean, we've seen it in these great British, these thriller, these chases, these capers, these spy murder capers. Well, this wrong man turned out to be the right man. I mean, he did it, and he was the wrong man, exactly. And you know what really works for us about that is that it's totally believable. I mean, he's not some sweet and innocent, meek guy. He's a hothead. I mean, it really makes sense. And anyone who thinks that Marlene Dietrich's going to fall in love with you and run away with you, you've got to have a screw loose. So it makes total sense that he was capable of murder. Great performances, just a great film. Marlene Dietrich's song, "The Laziest Gal in Town," you know, again, Diane mentioning she used to sing that in high school and in college. That scene is expertly spoofed in the movie Blazing Saddles by Madeline Kahn, and I'm going to link that down below on the website, yearofhitchcockmovies.com, if you don't know the website. And boy, it's her song is called "I'm Tired" or "I'm So Tired," and it is clearly a tip of the hat to Marlene Dietrich. So very good. And you know, a quick word about the music. The music was perfect in this film. I neglected to mention who wrote it, and I forget right now, so I'm just going to link it up right down here as to the composer of this. But how good was the scene? You know, you remember the part where Ordinary Smith was playing the piano for them all at Jane Wyman's parents' house, and you know, later in the film when she's thinking, you know, that she's liking this detective, she's now getting a hug from Jonathan, her old crush, and all she can hear is that piano music in her head, and they use that same piano music again in the back of the taxi when they're falling in love. Just really well done, not too over the top, and music as it should have been. And some of the funny bits, the music was just perfect. So once again, you know, someone, in this case Marlene Dietrich, she was offered brandy. I mean, it took 3 minutes for someone who was in distress to be offered brandy. Of course, that was in the false flashback, so does that mean it wasn't in the movie? No, it was in the movie. And boy, you know, with this British thriller caper movie, it reminded us in a good way of, we kept thinking Young and Innocent, and what a great movie that was, where the young girl who's, okay, let's think, she was the daughter of the chief of police, and she helps the man, not by choice, who's on the run, who didn't do it, and they fall in love, they catch the bad guy. 39 Steps, you know, again, a man on the run, woman and man don't want to be together, fall in love. The big climax of the 39 Steps. What are the 39 Steps? In the theater with the guy shooting Mr. Memory and then getting, you know, caught by the bad guys right in the stage. Fantastic. And you know, even blackmail, even though Diane disagrees with me a little bit. We had blackmail in tonight's movie with the maid. Oh, and how funny was it when Marlene Dietrich called Jane Wyman's character the wrong name like 4 times in the same scene. But anyways, where in the movie Blackmail, Annie Andra, you know, she commits the homicide and she's dating a detective and they get her off, and so you know, lots of neat ideas. Very Hitchcockian. Even though he didn't write the short story, this was a very nice Hitchcockian film. So there you have it. I think you can tell that Diane and I sure like this one, and you know, I got to point out that this really is the end of an era. This is the last of the old Hitchcock films. There are no more. We're going to see Black and White again. Well, next week we see Black and White, and the week after, and Psycho, of course, as we all know, is in black and white. But you know, if you're looking for this genre, we're done with it, and really we're entering the second of our last phases. We're calling it Phase 5, where the man could simply do no wrong, up to Psycho, and we're certainly excited. It's probably the reason we're doing this whole video blog is the movies leading up to and including Psycho, and what a tremendous trip that's going to be to do that. So yeah. So it makes me a little sad that tonight's movie wasn't a success, although it does well. It does very well after all these years, and you know, we can think of Hitchcock films that were a huge success and we just don't get it. This isn't that. We can't figure those ones out. We can figure this one out. So okay, so 1950. We're done with 1950. The best picture in 1950 was and is all about Eve, and boy is that a great movie. Mostly with Bette Davis, but it has Anne Baxter, and she is fantastic in. We'll see her again in Hitchcock's I Confess, and George Sanders is won an Oscar for his portrayal in All About Eve, and of course he was in Foreign Correspondent. Wonderful, wonderful stuff. Another great movie from 1950, if you've never seen it, is Sunset Boulevard. That is Robert Osborne's all-time favorite movie with Joseph Cotton, William Holden, and Gloria Swanson, and Eric von Stroheim, and that's a great movie. And lastly, also in 1950, is James Stewart in Harvey. If you like James Stewart and you have not seen Harvey, stop what you're doing. Stop it. Stop this video. Stop watching this. Stop it and go get your hands on Harvey. It's not the greatest movie in the world. It's not the greatest movie ever made, but it is a delight, fresh as a daisy, even today. So good. We're done with this. We're done with 1950. We're real excited. We love our shirts, so thank you to the person who mailed them to us. And for all you other people out there, feel free to mail us stuff too. Good, so we're looking forward to what we're calling Phase 5 now, leading up to and including Psycho, starting with next week from 1951, Strangers on a Train, which is going to be great. So good, so from our couch to yours, we look forward to it, and we will see you next week.